All right, everybody, welcome to a little Halloween hullabaloo, a little Halloween Samhain celebration featuring some Religion Tube folks. Really happy to be joined by Dr. Puka with the Ghoul here, of course, in tradition there on the left. Religion for Breakfast, Andrew Hendry, Dr. Hendry. It's great to have you as well. Welcome, guys. How's your Halloween going? I know that you guys are well into Halloween where you are. It's already sundown in your locations. How's Halloween going for you so far?
So far, so
It's been good.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's good.
Mm-hmm.
We're having some
Um,
friends over. We're gonna watch some horror movies as usual. It's always nice.
nice.
In our
What are
house.
you watching?
I don't
Let's
know
talk
yet.
religion, Ghoul.
Usually, it'll be like 2 or 3 movies, and one of them is always one of those old classics, like one of the Universal movies. Or I think last year we watched Nosferatu,
Nice.
and then usually we'll do like one more recent one, but we haven't decided yet, so we'll see. We'll vote later on.
There's a vote involved. That's
Yes.
interesting.
Highly democratic Halloween. Um, did you guys Andrew, did you guys watch any good scary movies like to celebrate the season?
No, it's mostly just indulging in a lot of candy.
Mm.
It's something I never grew out of. So
Mm.
yeah, don't
I
don't
indulge.
ask me about my nutritional intake today.
I indulge in a lot of chocolate, but that is not Halloween related. That's every day. So
Well, Angela, you kind of just to be honest, I think you kind of live in Halloween most days. So
yeah, that's yeah, fair enough.
it might be Halloween wherever Angela is.
I bring it with me wherever I go. It becomes
Exactly. Uh,
Halloween or Samhain.
How
you know,
about you?
it's yeah, so um, with one rather sad element to it, I every Halloween I get a weekend to or every October I get a weekend to myself where I get to go to my like cabin in the woods and tempt fate as like the white guy who brings all of the really necromantic books into the forest with him and reads them. And so I go out and do that, and then I just like binge and eat candy and watch scary movies and stuff like that. So what did I
Sounds
watch
crazy.
this time? Oh, one thing I did watch that I can recommend highly for folks is if you're a fan of like the Jason movies, like the Friday the 13th movies, the fan film Never Hike Alone, both 1 and 2, are incredibly well done. They're
Fan
again,
film
it's
1 and 2.
yeah. So there's two. Of course, it's a horror franchise. You have to have.
Yeah.
So yeah, Never Hike Alone 1 and 2 is absolutely fantastic as far as like fan Jason films. And considering they haven't made a Jason film in like 10 years, like all about the fan films, which is also again a good analogy for a lot of religion books, right? It's like so much of early Christian texts are basically fanfics. It's like Jesus
Mhm.
fanfic, like the moral. Let's expand the Jesus Marvel universe by
Mhm.
having him do all kinds of with this, that, and the other. But I will say that they're really really good. Um, they also got to what else did I watch? Oh, Return of the Living Dead, which is just like an absolute
Oh yeah,
fun
Mm.
classic.
I haven't seen
It's
that one in a long time. Maybe.
it's so good. I got the soundtrack on vinyl. Um, my little kid was picking up because it has the zombies on the cover, and they're
Mhm.
like, "Oh, but those are silly zombies." And I'm like, dude, there actually are silly zombies in that
Yeah.
movie, legit. But
We were listening to the like like John Carpenter music in the car yesterday. Some sort of anthology, like a collection of all his soundtracks.
yeah, they
Uh,
just released a 2 volume set of
I think that's the one.
yeah, he re-recorded everything, which is really cool to hear. Sort of new takes on the fog and Halloween and all that.
Yeah.
Mm.
What's
But,
your favorite celebration of the year? The favorite seasonal celebration or holiday?
It's probably Halloween for me, actually.
Mm, me too.
Yeah, Halloween's up there. I've learned to like it even more as I became an adult because it was more fun when you're a kid because it's like trick or treating and costumes. But then once you're an adult, it's like Halloween parties and costumes still. So it like
Mm,
gets more fun.
yeah.
Yeah, I think of like the Sukkot to Halloween pipeline. Like Sukkot is like a holiday that gets you like out of doors in the fall, and you're sort of like outside in the fall weather, and it's like eating outside and studying outside. And then sort of like that extends over in my mind to Halloween, where it goes from being fun outside fall festival to like increasingly spooky through October. So I like
Yep.
the Sukkot to Halloween pipeline. In fact, if you listen if you let my kids tell it, they basically think Halloween's a Jewish holiday. They go like, it's like Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, Halloween. They have no idea that it's completely not a Jewish holiday.
Mm.
Um, but
Yeah, I saw that somebody was asking what religion is Halloween. Well, yeah, that's complicated.
yeah, Angela, tell us a little bit about how that
It's a
went down for you.
Let anger more people. Because I released a video on both the history of Halloween in UK and Ireland and history of Samhain, which is the festival that comes before Halloween, but is not as clear cut as, because you find a lot of people, especially in the pagan community, or in communities that practice Stoicism, that say, "Oh, Halloween is a pagan holiday, comes from Samhain," and in part it is true, but at the same time, Samhain, as it is understood now by pagans, was also influenced by Christianity. So it's a mix of the two. So it is true that Halloween comes from pagan celebrations, such as Samhain, but there were many. It wasn't just one. But it is also true that the association with the dead and the celebration for the dead comes from All Souls, and so there's a Christian influence there. So they have influenced each other, really. But you could say that the pagan one comes first. It was just not an homogeneous celebration. That's one of the things that people tend to sometimes misunderstand about these celebrations. And when you trace the history back, we tend to assume that things were as homogeneous and solidified and standardized as they are now, because now we live in a different world and in a globalized world, and the amount of information that is spread throughout allows for celebrations to be a bit more consistent across different places. Whereas in the past, things were more regional and varied much more significantly from one place to another, even from one area of Scotland to the other one, or from one Celtic region to another. So
Right,
this
because
is something
Celtic
that,
region stretched from
yeah.
all over Europe. I mean, it's I don't even know what aside from a linguistic sense that they speak a linguistically connected language. Like it doesn't. I'm not sure how much sense it talks about. It means to talk about strict historical continuity. I mean, I think the same thing with like Israelite religion, like whatever they were doing in the far north at Tel Dan, and whatever they were doing way down in Tel Arad. Even from the biblical text, we can tell they don't think they're doing the same thing, much less the people around them. So I
Yeah.
can only imagine that in a place as basically the size of New Jersey, in terms of geographic distribution, I can only imagine when you take an island the size of Ireland, or a civilized or a linguistic group as big as the Celts, and to say, oh, they were all doing the same thing, that's like not even remotely possible.
Yeah, and there were people getting angry at my video, the one that is called Samhain was not a Celtic Fire Festival. And for some reason, they just equated automatically Celtic with Irish. And I was called a Roman oppressor, and certain things in history never change. You are trying to erase Irish culture. And it's like that. You clearly haven't watched a single minute of the video. But yeah, also there's the equation between Celtic and Irish, of course, is inaccurate.
Right.
But
You're a Roman colonizer.
yeah. So clearly, I cannot speak about the history of Samhain because I'm just perpetrating the.
Oh, I think I saw
Because,
someone say that. Like, who is Ronald Hutton? He's an Englishman. He can't talk about Ireland. I love the genetic fallacy, man. That's some good.
yeah, the yeah.
That's
Yeah.
good. That's good fallacy there.
It's the whole insider outsider problem with religious studies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can write a whole history of just that. It's good genetic fallacy. Delicious. No.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but the majority of responses were quite positive. It's just that I guess that you guys probably understand, but when you get those few negative comments, it kind of gets to you because you don't know whether you should reply to them all and explain, that they are not understanding the first thing about what you were talking about, or if you should just let it go. What do you guys do in those cases? Do you explain things like, Irish and Celtic are not the same thing? Let's start with that.
Yeah. I just let it
Yeah,
go.
generally not. Yeah, like if there's like a serious issue that I need to address, I might like try to, because I think if you as the channel owner like a comment, it floats to the top. So if there's like, I've used that before to be like as a disclaimer or something like that. But generally speaking, no, it's bad for my mental health to focus on the 5 negative comments and
Yes.
a video with 10,000 views.
Yeah, I think if I had any faith whatsoever that internet debates change people's minds, then I might I might consider it. But no, I'm not. I've never seen like a thread on Reddit or somewhere where someone says something to the equivalent of like, you know what, you presented an enormous amount of reliable information from peer-reviewed scholarship, and therefore I'm going to reconsider my position in light of this. What I see is, no, I'm doubling down on this. I'm going to block you so you can't. I mean, yeah, internet comments are not the place where it's just like an opportunity cost, to use the business language. The time it takes me to write even a 100-word response is time that I could have been almost doing anything better with my life.
Yeah, or like writing those 100 words for the next video that you're going to make, responding to comments as opposed to producing the next video.
Yeah. Especially when the comment is actually addressed in the video, or like it's just brazenly committing a logical fallacy. I'm like, it's not my job to correct. When you commit the genetic fallacy, I'm not really. I'm not doing that. Because it just shows like that kind of simple lack of wanting to reason shows that it's not intellectually serious or intellectually honest or something. I don't know.
Yeah, the discussion is never going to go anywhere anyway. So
yeah, I guess a part of me is just the only reason why I felt a bit conflicted, but then I ended up not responding, is that I feel like since it is an educational channel, I kind of feel like I would want to educate, but as you said, probably they are not coming from a place of wanting to understand. They are just coming from a place of wanting to reaffirm their own beliefs.
And also people's identities are tied up to this stuff.
Yeah,
it's not often that it's not a disputation over facts. It's a disputation over how dare you threaten the group that I identify as. Like, you can't take your identity away from me.
I think sorry.
That's been a large part of my experience, is that it's sort of like it's not that you're undermining a fact. It's that you undermining that fact undermines my relationship to an identity marker, and therefore you're actually attacking me, and that's what's the problem. And I'm like, I don't get to change the history. I don't get to change the scholarship. I can say that this is where the state of scholarship is, and go from there. And there's not much I can do. Thank God I can't control the history. That would be so inconvenient and horrible. I love the fact that there are just things I look at and I'm like, this is the evidence. Like, I don't even like it sometimes. I'm like, yeah, I wish it were different than this.
Yeah, I know. I wish a lot of people would realize that in the audience. It's like, sometimes I'm presenting things that like are going against my own preconceptions about the topic. Like, oh, I've learned something new and it changed my mind while making this video.
Right.
Yeah. And also just like, I presented things where, I can think of the Yahweh video that I did that I presented a lot of positions by Smith and other people that I'm not sure I even agree with. And I'm like, this is kind of where the scholarship is. And my job isn't to say where I land on things, at least not most of the time. It's to say, like, these are the top 5 people in the field, and this is sort of where the scholarship is. And I don't even agree with it sometimes. And it's not my job to present what I think is correct. It's me trying to present the best consensus of where things land as possible. And
you touched on something so important, because with so many YouTubers that just present their opinions, people assume that what we present in our videos is our opinion, and it's not. Even in my case, sometimes I present scholarship that I don't personally agree with, or I might have some problems with, but it's still the best evidence and the best scholarship that we have on the topic. So that's the one that I'm going to present. So I think that when people think that it is our opinion, they are kind of not quite getting where we are coming from, because we are not, our channels are not really about presenting our views and opinions. Maybe during live streams we can do that, or with our patrons. I definitely do more of that with my patrons, but not on my channel. On my channel, what I want to do and what I chose to do is to deliver information based on academic scholarship.
Right. Not even scholarship. I find people sometimes also, if I talk about some guy from the 11th century and just present their philosophy, people sometimes assume that I agree with it just by the fact that I talk about it, which is always
that's another problem that I have, because there are some figures in esotericism that have been quite influential and that I'd like to cover on my channel, but I know that I will get a massive backlash. I mean, imagine covering Julius Evola, for instance. They would just assume you agree with him when you
should let me cover it, because it's clear that I'm like not on Evola's team. Like,
we should do a collaboration on that.
On Evola, you know, if you were in the least bit intellectually interesting, I'd be more interested in doing that. I just like happened to find that it's not that he was like a fascist or whatever that I find repugnant. Like Heidegger was a fascist too, but he's like a genius. Is that Evola is like, even other fascists thought Evola was a clown. And like he's intellectually so uninteresting at some level. And to me, it's not even like it's not that I don't want to cover him because he's
been influential though. I don't like it. I personally don't like him either. Not just because he was a fascist, but for everything. It's not particularly interesting. But he has been influential. His thought has been influential. For sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same with like. But even I'd be more inclined to do someone like Jung, who I do disagree with deeply and has been influential, but I do think is intellectually much more rich. Andrew, I was going to ask you a question. I've been reading about I've been reading and thinking about doing an episode on sort of religion at Çatalhöyük. Have you ever thought about doing like? Have you seen some of the work that's coming out of like Newman and some other folks who are like, and this symposium that happened from 2006 2008, where they brought in archaeologists and theologians and religious studies people, and really got the theologians on site, and they published there's a really great.
I mean, I gotta say, like, I had like one graduate level lecture on Çatalhöyük like 10 years ago or whenever that was, whenever I was in grad school. So like I'm fascinated by the site, and it almost like scares me. Like if I imagine myself in like 8000 BC and my religion is like defleshing the skulls of my ancestors, painting them red, and then burying them under my ancestral home. Like, wow, like what's going on there? Like interesting, weird stuff. So I don't know much about it, but I fully endorse you making that video. And if you want some footage on the ground, I think I'm a few hours away from the site right now.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Yeah, it was like, given that you're in that neck of the woods, in the Göbekli Tepe Çatalhöyük neck of the woods, but anyway, I'm reading some of this stuff now, and it's one of those things where it's not esoterica per se, but what is interesting is what the question of what can we say without having any access to written records, and what and the sections on methodology in these texts are amazing. Like you have archaeologists, semioticians, and theologians all talking about like, what do we do with all this like headless imagery? Like, what do we do with the skull, defleshing, and also what do we do with like the plastering? Like there's much more plastering happening at Jericho than at Çatalhöyük, but some are being plastered, and there seems to be certain homes, like the history homes, that are where there are many more people buried in the history homes than other homes. It's just
I imagine there's like a line of research from cognitive science too, like what's going on in their brains as they do this, and what can we learn from like where they place that
right.
The skull
Newman is doing it. He's written a book on sort of like what he calls the Neolithic mind, and he makes, I think, really fast, like sort of archaeobiology stuff.
I'm currently writing 2 episodes, one on animal religion, religion, can we say that animals do religion, and I'm doing one on like hominid religion outside of Homo sapiens. So like I'm deep in this world, just I haven't gone up to the Neolithic yet. I'm still
You're still
quite
way down.
Paleolithic. Yeah.
You're even down like down one rung on the chain of being. Like,
yeah, exactly. So yeah, I'm swimming in those waters right now, but I would love to see a video on that topic.
yeah, I'm doing some reading on it now, and yeah, it's just like a fascinating, again, it's like somehow Sumerian religion seems really, really distant and ancient, and then you're like, oh yeah, we can to wind the clock back,
and then like Göbekli Tepe walks along, and then like Paleolithic, Australopithecus religion walks along. You're like, okay,
yeah, like how
Sumerians
far
aren't that old.
Yeah, it seems like I always tell my students that if I had to gamble on something, I'd probably gamble on the fact that civilization's probably a fad. That in the
civilization.
Civilization's probably a fad. On the grand scheme
in
of
what
things,
sense? Oh yeah, in the grand scheme.
I imagine there'll be one day where there'll be someone drying out a deer hide on the remains of the skyscrapers that are half submerged in New York, being like, I wonder who built this. Why did they do this? I imagine this will be at some point. This will be a memory. There's even a short story or a novel, I imagine, where human beings come to the collective decision that we're done. That this was a bad idea, and the question is, how do we parachute out of it? Like, how do we like turn off? How do we like scale back down to, in a non-genocidal way, in a non sort of like everything has to die, but sort of it's post-apocalyptic, but the apocalypse is like an intentional, welcome to the initial descent back into the lithic period. And like imagine like a human-wide decision at some level to deplane, to be like, this is not a good idea. This was a mistake. And again, the logic being, it's a relatively recent mistake. It's a 8,000-year-old mistake in the grand scheme of the 200,000 years we've been Homo sapiens. It's a pretty easy one to fix. I don't know. I just like, again, I just to look around and think that we've like, this is the end and it's all commentary from here. It just seems such hubris.
Yeah.
Do you think of yourself as a cynic, Justin?
like a capital C cynic? Like I don't assent to
capital C and lowercase c.
Yeah, like I don't assent to truth claims to
no,
achieve autoroxia. Because I do assent to truth claims, and it does cause me a lack of autoroxia. No. I'm very optimistic. I just think that we have to have broader scopes of what optimism is constitutive of. Like, I mean, it's far more optimistic to think that we might opt out of civilization than to like all the doomerism that I see around me constantly. Like that doesn't seem optimistic to me.
Yeah, I mean, as a historian, like the doomerism is interesting because if social media existed 100 years ago, I mean, like, imagine if social media existed during like World War I, where like tens of thousands of people were dying per day in the Battle of Gallipoli or whatever. Like we would be thinking, oh, the world's coming to an end. But the world continued for another 100 years. Things are bad. That's not to diminish like horrors happening every single day today. But I do sometimes try to put it in a 100-year, 500-year, 1,000-year time frame where it's like social media has like messed with our sense of doomerism.
I agree. I mean, I think about people talk about now as bad. I'm like, yeah, the 6th century was bad. Like of all the centuries I want to have anything to do with, 6th century, I would trade 2 or 3 20th centuries to not have to deal with the 6th century in terms of just like plagues and wars and like the 6th century was I think the nightmare of history. The 20th century
also where you lived.
Sure, I mean 6th century is sort of the sort of the Eurasian situation for people like us. I'm sure that whoever was living in the very beginning of Japan didn't care at all. But I think there's 2 things to hold, right? There's sort of Pinker's point that on every metric things are getting better. Like on every metric that matters, things are dramatically better, even yearly, and yet we continue to have this doomeristic outlook. And I think there's somehow, how do you hold both truths, like the Pollyannish Pinkerism versus the doomerism that you get from, I don't know, Greta or something. and at some level, neither of those are strictly speaking have to be. Neither of those are right, but in some sense, one, like you said, Andrew, one, it gets so weighted by social media and stuff that it becomes the that the apocalypse is very whatever, it's very trendy and popular.
Yeah, like the apocalyptic mind, like we just want to think apocalyptically.
Right, and you feel special, right? Because if you're the ones to turn the lights off, then it was you're the chosen ones. And I'm like, yeah, probably not. Like, you're probably not.
I think I've heard that called historical narcissism, where it's like our period matters the most out of all the periods of history.
Right. There's a great cuneiform tablet, I think, right? That they don't speak the pure language anymore. The gods have abandoned us. Everyone's doing evil and and the world is surely coming to an end.
Yeah, you can see that even with generations. Every generation thinks, "Oh, things are so much worse with the younger generation." Everything is going crazy now.
Right. And someone Ray mentioned the Bronze Age collapse. I mean, there's no, the sea peoples or whatever battering down your door.
Also pretty bad.
Yeah, but not for the sea peoples. Like, they got away. Like, they set up shop in the Levant. They're like, all right, so now we're,
they presumably ran away from something, and then
something went wrong, and they set up shop in the Levant, became the Philistines, or and other groups or whatever. But yeah, so in some sense, they're refugees that really made it work.
What do you guys think is the best thing about? Let me reformulate the question. Since we are doing education on social media, what do you think is the best strategy to educate on social media? Because there are different people that approach it from different points of view. Because we need to sort of play with the algorithm and the different platforms. I don't know if you guys are on other platforms, but of course we have YouTube, but there are also other platforms that work in different ways, like TikTok works with trends and stuff like that. So what do you think about educating on social media? What is the best strategy that you can apply on the different platforms?
It's a good question. I'm still trying to figure out TikTok personally. I think in general, it's for me, it's about finding some kind of balance between being in tune with whatever's going on on a certain platform in terms of the style and the tone and so on, but also keeping that whatever you want to call it, like the integrity of the material itself. But that can be very difficult. Like, it's like now on TikTok we can do 10-minute videos. Before it was 3 minutes. And doing anything about religion in 3 minutes is essentially impossible. But I don't know. It's hard, I think.
Yeah, I don't know how many of you watched Dan McClellan, the Hebrew Bible scholar who's really big on TikTok. I think he is the quintessential example of religion education on TikTok, in that it's a more, I don't want to use the word aggressive, but it's more confrontational, where he will I don't know the terminology. I hate TikTok, but like he'll do a stitch with the person doing misinformation, and then immediately show the misinformation alongside actual information. And I think it has been very effective for him. And I think that works for short form video. For the stuff we do, they're long form explainers. So I think we're trying to do something that's more search engine based. YouTube is a search engine, and most of my traffic comes from search. So if someone types in the word, what is Buddhism or something like that, I'm hoping that my video on Buddhism is going to be one of those top search hits, and then someone will watch a 20-minute long explainer about it, which is just a completely different strategy to like directly, aggressively confronting the misinformation in 30 to 120 seconds. I think both work. It obviously works with Dan, and I think it works with our respective platforms. But yeah, I haven't. For me, it's almost like a style, or like something that I enjoy. I don't enjoy TikTok, and I enjoy YouTube. So like for me, like I'm just a better educator sticking with what I enjoy.
Yeah, I have thought about using that kind of methodology of stitching people's TikToks and talking about the history and whether it's accurate or not. But I kind of feel bad about it, because it's like, it's not really, because how can I put it? It's like, I have probably shattered some pagan dreams on my YouTube channel. Like, for instance, when I talked about the triple goddess and the fact that it comes from Robert Graves and it's not this ancient thing, and the same with Wicca, which is something that there are a lot of pagans that already realize that, because there is historical research on that, and others still strongly believe those things. Now, the problem, I think, with having a confrontational approach for me would be that it kind of implies, like, if somebody is talking about, I don't know, something about the triple goddess, and I stitch it and say, oh, the triple goddess is actually a very recent invention or a narrative that is quite recent. It kind of implies that what they are doing in their practice and their belief is wrong. And obviously, I don't want to imply that, because you can believe whatever you want and you can include in your practice whatever you want, as long as you have a difference, as long as you understand the difference between what is historical and what is your practice. Because you can also say, oh, I want to implement this element because it's powerful and it is effective in my own practice and it is fulfilling or meaningful in my spiritual on my spiritual path. So it's not like things to be used in a religion need to be historically accurate, as long as you keep the difference between the two. You don't pretend that that things is historical just because it works in your practice, and from a mythological or mythopoetical point of view, it's something that is beneficial for your religiosity. So that's my point. So that's why I find it difficult to use that confrontational approach, even though I know that it works, because it might imply that I'm telling people what to do, and in a prescriptive way, like, oh, you shouldn't do this in your practice because this is something that is not ancient, which obviously doesn't imply that you shouldn't use in your practice.
Yeah, I think also for me, like, who am I going to stitch against for like the Dervini papyrus? Like, I guess like sometimes the stuff I hit on is like, like it just I think that for me, some of the lessons that I've taken from Jackson Crawford has a great list of sort of principles that he abides by in his content creation. I think there's a lot of wisdom in that. As one of the other OG sort of educational people that are around, like Andrew. And one of the things I often get asked to do is like debunking videos, and that's one thing I've a priori decided never to do. And I think that the sort of stitching, that's sort of a debunking thing, and I'd rather not do that, just because I don't know if it's effective in terms of changing minds. But to your point, Andrew, thinking of YouTube as a search engine and thinking about basically there's a war between people who are going to fill it with insane things and people who are going to fill it with the best information that we have. And for me, I have it easier than you guys, because often what the stuff you guys are doing is a much more more introductory level, like what is Buddhism, or sort of that level stuff, where there's lots of misinformation. But I'm very lucky that I'm not really competing with many people. There's how many, if you go through my catalog, there's, with the exception of the really popular stuff, a lot of the stuff I cover, I don't think many people are covering at all. And so for me, it's just like get there first and make it as reliable as I can, and then let that be the foundation upon which other media will eventually be made or built. So yeah, so I think for me, this is a much easier thing. And also I'll say that part of the reason why I don't do TikTok, aside from the fact that I don't understand it, I'm an old person, like old man yells at the sky, is that so much of what I want to do is so deeply mired in a certain context. I just feel like I can't do that. In fact, my content has gotten more and more closer to the 40 to 50 minute mark. And I think that the more granular you get, the more you have to do explaining to build it out. So if I'm going to do an episode on, like, I'm working on an episode on Pistis Sophia, I mean, you got to do a lot of building out to make any of that make sense at all. And also, like, how we have to problematize categories like Gnosticism, and like be like, oh yeah, this, not only can we not talk about Gnosticism without talking about why we can't talk about it, it's just like there's just so much there that I just don't know.
But you have to use the word Gnostic or Gnosticism in the title or the description, so
Oh, of course
you're
you do.
found via
Yep.
the search engine. So
Yeah, I was talking to who was it? M. David Litva, and Litva was like, "Yeah, I wrote a whole book on basic Gnosticism when I never had to use the word Gnostic." Like, yeah, and I'm fairly confident that if your publisher had their druthers, the word Gnostic would be there front and center.
yeah, at least the title, if not every other page.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm fairly confident. You write a book about how there's no good analysis of the category magic, your publisher's gonna put the word magic on there front and center. And if you do not put it in your thumbnail, you might as well just bury your own. You're burying the lead, and you're not going to get picked up. And the entire point of your educational thing, you've just shot in the foot. So put it in the thumbnail, then spend 5 minutes debunking it.
That's
debunk
like
yourself.
exactly.
Yeah,
I did that with
debunk yourself.
I think the Valentinianism video I did that, where I put like Christian Gnosticism in the title, and then like within the first 5 minutes, I'm like, let's problematize this term Gnosticism.
It's the same for me with Celtic spirituality and the concept of Celtic, which is highly debated, just like Gnosticism. There's also Dan from the Modern Hermeticists in the chat. Hi, Dan.
I did see Dan. Good to see you, Dan. Feel free to jump on if you want to jump on. Let me know. I can throw you the link. Always happy to bring the Modern Hermeticists in.
I need to log off soon too. So if someone wants to take my space, that's fine.
Andrew, what do you guys? I know that we keep our cards to our chest in terms of what we're working on, but what are you guys working on? Anything? Any interesting things that you want to preview or?
Yeah, mention? I mean, before I log off, I guess the biggest project I'm working on now is a intro to atheism and other forms of non-religion. It's going to be a 10-episode series funded through a think tank of sorts at the university, Queen's University Belfast, and it's just going to be like all of this really exciting research in the past 10 years on like, what does it mean to be atheist? What does it mean to be spiritual but not religious? What do people mean when they say they are agnostic? And do people that say they're non-religious have rituals and beliefs? And can religious studies scholars study this topic? It's called religious studies, but this is like non-religious studies. So yeah, it's currently in the works. Hoping to launch next summer.
That's something that is very much studied here in the UK, the so-called nuns. I've heard many research papers on the nuns, which would be the people that define themselves as non-religions, and they are called nuns by sociologists of religion.
Yeah, I'm one of those. I'm the one guy in the room who's like, yeah, I'm religious but not spiritual.
The opposite of usually.
Yeah, I'm deeply religious, but you can miss me with all that spirituality stuff.
And Andrew and I also have a collaboration coming up in December.
That's true. You wanna preview that or
on Isis?
Yes, the goddess Isis. Yes.
Yeah. Yes, it's Dash or the goddess.
Yeah, this is where the search algorithm might ruin us. But yes, I was in, or the opposite. Who knows? Yeah, we're gonna do two different facets of the topic. For me, I was in Pompeii. I think my last international trip before COVID hit, like February 2020. I was in Pompeii, and I got all this footage of the Isis temple there. And nice. So I'm excited to do like the Roman perspective of her.
Funny because it's close from the place where I come from, Pompeii, obviously. But yeah, I think I will cover more the contemporary understanding of Isis and how it's been reframed and how contemporary practitioners and contemporary pagans see Isis and how it has changed from theosophy onwards.
They had that big Isis temple in Rome, right? It was like one of the and it was controversial. I remember if I remember my Roman religion that there's a lot of the old guard Romans that really didn't like it there, and that it made them uncomfortable, whatever. But I can't remember who it was. Dan would know. Actually, he's teaching a class on Roman religion.
Yeah, I haven't gone deep enough, and I think there was a temple in Rome, and I forget who it was. All I know is that there's like the mystery cult aspect to it, where you get initiated, and I just think the concept of like adopting an Egyptian goddess in Rome. It's this very interesting
Fascinating.
perspective of
Yeah, it just like where diasporic gods end up is a fascinating. You know, I think
It's
Yahweh
a good way to
temples
put
in
it.
the diaspora. It's like a fascinating. It's an episode I want to make on
Mhm.
the Egyptian Yahweh shrines that existed at
Mm.
Elephantine, but also the one that existed in Alexandria.
Mhm.
Onias III goes into exile and is like, well, I'll take my temple and go to Egypt. And there are functioning Yahweh temples in Egypt. So it's just like diasporic temples are just a fascinating Mithraism as like sort of a
Mhm.
quasi diasporic.
As
At least
Mithraism
in name.
vibes.
Yeah, at least in name. I don't know how much to what degree actually Mithraism was really connected to actual Iranian religion in any respects, but
Yeah.
All
right, it's getting
cool,
pretty late
Philip.
for me, so I'm gonna log off now. But it was so good to catch up with y'all.
Mm.
Awesome. Yeah, good to see you, Andrew.
Likewise, Andrew. Thank you
Well, happy
for
Halloween,
joining us.
and yep, talk to you soon.
Take care.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye, Andrew.
Philip, what you working on? Anything that you're excited about coming up?
I got this question yesterday from a friend, and I didn't know what to answer. I've been so focused on the Shocktober stuff that I kind of forgot what I was going to do afterwards. I've been thinking about remaking the Zoroastrianism video that I did. Like that was one of my earliest ones, and it's one of those things where I feel like I've gotten better at making videos.
Mm-hmm.
I know more about the topic, and I also pretty sure that the scholarship has also progressed since I made the last one. So I think it's time to remake that one. I'm also very early on, like a very early stage, but I'm working on a video about Swedenborg.
Oh, nice.
Because I
huge
live
topic.
just like his house was just 10 minutes from here. So probably more sort of I would love to do more of a documentary style thing like I did with like nature religion in Sweden and so on, something like that. And then like I spoke to you about, Justin, I basically started some sort of mysticism series. I did one on Sufism and then one on Christian mysticism. So I'm thinking about also doing one on Jewish mysticism. I don't mean to steal your audience, Justin, but we might be working together on that one. We'll see.
Yeah. I think between Zevi, you and I'm sure we can come with something. It's definitely not my audience. I think that I haven't really done much with Kabbalah recently. I need to do some.
What do you think your audience is mostly?
My audience?
Yeah. The question is for both of you. I was wondering, what do you think your audience? Who do you think your audience is? In terms of
we have the metrics. I can tell you the metrics, but in terms of like, we mean like, what do they believe?
Yeah, like roughly based on the comments and the feel that you get. Of course, I know it's not accurate data analysis.
I mean, anecdotally, I would say that it's some degree of people for whom the content is spiritually meaningful, and then some also strong adjunct of folks that are just like intellectually interested in the topics for non-spiritual reasons. But I would say that it skews in the direction of people for whom there's a spiritual or philosophical investiture, I would say. That's my sense of it based on the comments, which is also, for me, an important point of responsibility that I have a job of not just representing academic information well, but also making sure that I present it in a way that that is accessible to people who are interested in it as a spiritual or philosophical technology.
Yeah, I don't know. My impression is that I have a very diverse audience, so it's hard to sort of pinpoint. I think somewhat similar to how Justin describes it. People who, I think the majority of people that watch my content seem to somehow gain something spiritually from it, is what I get from the comments. I know that like the metrics tell me that the majority of people are from the US that watch, but also that, and I can tell also from how many people watch when I release a new video, that the majority of my audience seem to be really into Sufism and Islam, maybe for obvious reasons. When I put out a video about those topics, they usually do really well, more so than other topics. Yeah, I don't know. How about you, Angela?
I think that I have. Oh, hi, Dan.
The modern hermeticist entered the chat.
I think that in my case, there are definitely a lot of practitioners, but I also noticed that I have quite a few academics and students and grad students, because when I go to conferences, or I also get letters from students that say, "Oh, I have joined this course because I was watching your channel." I even met a researcher who's now studying chaos magic, and she said that she was inspired by my video. So it seems like I also have academics and university students, which is nice. But I would say that the majority are probably practitioners or people that are interested, because I don't think that 70,000 plus or the 40,000 plus on TikTok are academics. So there will be a small percentage, I would imagine.
Dan, two things. One, congratulations on getting to 100K.
Thank you.
Did you are you going to get your
Silver
YouTube trophy?
play button.
I got it. It is here.
How long does it take?
In this box that I am not yet opening.
Oh wow! You could
waiting
open it
for
live.
An auspicious time to do.
Oh, you have to time it to get. You have to get some good astrological timing.
That's the plan. Yes. Oh,
then you disappeared.
My camera just died.
How long does it take for them to send it to you?
It took me.
It didn't take long. It took like 2 weeks.
Once I sent it, yeah, it was pretty fast.
Now, do you like they have a little tag in there to tell you who checked it?
Yes. Yeah. And it gives you a nice sappy letter on top of it.
Right.
Oh,
it's like, do you remember your first subscriber? And I'm like, no. And they're like, do you remember your 1,000th?
I look
and
forward
I'm like, no.
to that.
And they're like, surely you'll remember your 100,000th subscriber. And I'm like, I don't know about that.
Yeah. I always thought that it should open up and there should be one of those confetti guns that like shoots confetti at you, like when you get the #1 video in your thing, and it, like confetti.
Just like fireworks
confetti at you.
Or a sparkle bomb.
Yeah, something like that. Well, congratulations on that. Just first and foremost, congratulations on the 100K. But I think Angela's asking us who watches our channel. Do you have a sense of your audience of
Americans?
Do you guys think that Americans are the ones that watch YouTube the most?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense that it's like Anglosphere people first and foremost. Mm-hmm. So Americans at the top, and then UK second, and then probably like Canada and Australia third. And I imagine if I ran a French channel, that it would be a different audience of Francosphere people. But I think a lot of it has to just do with the fact that it's an English language channel.
I actually got a good bit of Portuguese people. I was interested in like, how many subscribers do I have in Sweden? Like, how famous am I in my own country? It was kind of depressing because it was like 300 subscribers or something.
A prophet is never welcome in his hometown.
Oh,
true.
But I think
Nemo profeta in patria.
Subscribing.
To say in Latin, Nemo profeta in patria. Yeah, I don't think that I have people from Italy in me either. So.
Now, when you were asking that, did you mean in terms of geography or in terms of like true believers versus people who are more interested from the historical perspective?
I think at first I was thinking more about practitioners versus academics, whether you have a feel that you have academics in your audience, but also whether they are practitioners or just interested in the topic.
No idea, but also kind of a false dichotomy, because so many people who are academics or people who are interested historically dabble or are full-on practitioners, and then there are practitioners, are scholars. So it's hard to say.
Hi, Fabio.
It looks like my camera is wiggling in and out. One sec.
Yeah, what's happening to your camera? I was looking at the chat and Fabio said he's from Italy.
We have Italians in the chat.
Italians everywhere.
especially in this country. No. Yeah, I wish that we had more metrics on ReligionTube about sort of, demographics outside of that. But we literally could you could make a poll and like, how would you describe yourself? Like practitioner, academic, scholar, practitioner, whatever. And like, very
I
interested in mining your
personally,
channel for Dungeons and Dragons.
I
Metal
hate
names.
Yeah,
the
black
category
metal
of scholar
names.
practitioner.
Yeah.
I was saying that I personally hate the category scholar practitioner.
Yeah, I think it's silly. Like as if like a Jesuit in a frock coat has to get called that. Like
No,
one's
I
gonna.
just don't think that it matters. If you are an
Yeah.
academic, it doesn't matter if you're a practitioner or not. It's completely
Yeah.
irrelevant.
It's a different game with a different
Yeah,
set of
because you're
rules.
not exactly because when you're studying something academically, you're using a certain methodology, and to use that methodology doesn't matter whether you believe in a god, two gods, no gods, in the, I don't know, Buffy the Vampire Slayer as your goddess, whatever you believe, it doesn't matter. So I don't like the category of scholar practitioner.
Yeah, I don't think
And
it's a helpful category.
I don't like when people say, oh, if you are not a practitioner, you cannot fully understand esotericism, especially when you study it from a historical point of view. And when you study it from an anthropological point of view, where you could have more of that question, there's participant observation for a reason. So that you can fully immerse and participate, you don't have to necessarily be a practitioner.
Yeah. What I notice is that there are people who are allergic to polemics and there are people who are not. And so a lot of the material that I've been posting lately and just in general have been polemics of all different kinds, not really from one particular vantage point or another. And some people just can't handle like polemical literature. So if it doesn't reinforce what they are looking for, then they just tune out or they leave angry comments or whatever it may be. And which is a shame because like when it comes to esotericism and the occult and all that, polemics are like one of your main sources. Of course, you can't read them without certain caveats, and you need to like take things with a grain of salt. But like they're an immense source of information. Like where would we be in the study of Gnosticism without Irenaeus or without Plotinus, who is also writing anti-Gnostic polemics and things like that. So that's something that I notice is that there are people who tend to be allergic to polemics, and I find that a bit frustrating because I'm like, this is one of your greatest sources of information. Why would you eschew it altogether?
Yeah, I got a lot of really angry comments on my Irenaeus video. People really, I don't know. There's something, again, it's always that we talked about this earlier, that if you're making a video about it, you must believe in it, as if like I'm an Orthodox Christian, the 2nd century proto-Orthodox Christian, and I hate Gnosticism. Like I don't like Gnosticism in general. Actually, I don't like it as a philosophy. I think it's actually a very poverty. It's a very yeah, I'm unimpressed with that as a philosophy. It's not that it's even sad. It's
hate mail incoming. Hate mail incoming.
Yeah, I just find it to be like preposterous at some level. And I am sympathetic to Irenaeus when he just like, let me tell you what they actually believe, and then that's enough. Like the example of like religious, like just sort of spelling it out. But also I would disagree with the Gnostics or whatever, the Sethians, for very different reasons than Irenaeus. But people got really angry, like, how dare you? Like they committed, like the Orthodox Christians massacred all the Gnostics, et cetera, which there's no evidence for that at all. In fact, I'm gonna make an episode. Have you guys heard this book, The 1,000 Faces of Christ? It's pretty cool.
I've heard of it, but I haven't read it.
It's a cool book because it sort of asks the question, like, how big were these factions? Like, how big? What fraction of Christianity was actually represented by Valentinians or Sethians? And the argument that they give based on the archaeological evidence and other kinds of evidence is that the polemical data actually makes it look like they were much, much bigger than they really were. And in fact, they were probably very tiny, maybe just individuals. And so it's interesting to think that Irenaeus may have been arguing with dozens of people, not hundreds. The Valentinians being an exception, but it's one of those things where we imagine them being like. There's a story that gets told that like the Gnostics were a huge amount of Christianity, and they were destroyed somehow militantly by the church, which is just no evidence for whatsoever. So this is those kinds of things are again, this sort of like the burning times narrative. Like, yeah, you weren't like that wasn't a thing.
There are two important factors that need to be considered, and it's like one is that a lot of the Gnostic groups didn't reproduce, or like thought that reproduction was a bad thing, which is a bad policy for perpetuating your religion. And then the other one is this idea. Often I use the metaphor of like coal. When you take a hot ember out from a fire and it sort of dies out, the church, as a kind of universalist institution, kept that fire blazing because there were so many people adhering to it. Whereas all of these individual smaller sects, they were like embers or coals, hot coals that you were pulling away from the fire. And because they weren't part of this large group that was self-perpetuating, they didn't keep that heat very much. And so eventually they fizzled out. So, the Montanists are a great example of that.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you can also just esoteric yourself out of a job. Like if you make your worldview so complicated and so secret that no one can join your thing without going through 16 years of initiation and all this, that, and the other, you'll find yourself in a small club real fast. And yeah, just like you can esoteric yourself out of a religion. You can extinct yourself. But
hey Angela, hey Philip, hey Dan, hey Justin.
Good to see you.
Sorry that I'm so late to the party.
But yeah, we're just talking about what were we talking about? Like the Gnostics and like the
how big were they?
Stuff. Yeah, how big were they?
Oh, it's funny that you guys mentioned the Gnostics. Actually, I have a really great book on the Gnostics that I was reading lately. I think I have it here.
Show us. Justin, can I ask how did people react to the video about, because you made one on Plotinus and his critique against the Gnostics? Was there a similar reaction to that compared?
Because there's an assumption that most people think they were on the same team,
right?
And they did not like the fact that they were not on the same team.
Okay.
Yeah, Neoplatonism is largely a reaction against Gnosticism, which wasn't figured out until recently.
Right.
People weren't talking about that until the last 10 years or so. That maybe Plotinus had Sethian origins, and part of his divine simplicity in putting things in three worlds and all of that is just a response to this massive plurality of so many different worlds.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that analysis, that it's a paring down. The Gnosticism is not a baroquing up.
Mm-hmm.
That freaked me out a little when I saw Zevi in the background.
Yeah. So yeah, folks may not know, but Zevi and I have been housemates for a couple of weeks.
So he's in another room in the house, basically.
Yeah, he's like actually you're directly below me right now, I believe. Yeah, you're like right. You're right below me.
I'm getting the effusions from above, drawing down the sustenance.
But yeah, it's been great. It's been great having Zevi here. Like it's just like it was like when we were in Europe. It's just like now he's in my house.
I was thinking that was rehearsal for.
Now it's just like, oh yeah, we can just like grab books off the shelf. It's great. Dan, you should come on over. You're just you're a short drive away.
It's true. I am. I've got that horrific border between us, though.
We had to cross that border when Zevi first got here. We had to go over to We went over to Windsor. It wasn't that bad. It was harder to get into Canada
Yeah,
than it was to go back to the States.
yeah, that's
But
usually
also, we
my
didn't prepare
experience.
well.
Like going from into the country that is not yours is typically harder than coming back
Sure.
in.
Yeah, we were just like, yeah, we wanted to go to Windsor to get some lunch, and they're like, where? And I was like, I don't know, lunch. They did not like that answer. But where, eh?
I think in Europe we are not like that.
No.
Yeah, because you guys don't have real borders anymore.
Yeah, but even when you go to a country that is not part of the EU, like Switzerland, for instance, it's not like that.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna count Switzerland. Like if you try to go to Russia, I don't know how it'll go down there.
Yeah.
You know, Belarus or something like that.
I think a lot of it has to do with like firearm laws differences and things like that.
Oh, definitely. You know, the stories I hear about like smuggling a handgun from Detroit to get it to Toronto to sell in the black market, you can like quadruple your money in one go. So yeah. So I don't blame the Canadians for being terrified of Americans.
And you can quadruple your money by going to America to buy groceries.
Which true. Or gasoline.
Yeah, just if anybody who lives close to the border, they just go over to the States because everything is ludicrously expensive here.
Yeah, but it's like 90% of the population of Canada lives within like a couple hours of the U.S. border somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So you're basically cousins, Americans and Canadians.
Yes, it's true.
So with the exception of the Quebecois people.
Which is my people also.
But yeah, like Dan, how far are you? Like 3 or 4 hours
from
driving?
Detroit? Yeah, about 3 hours.
Yeah. No, there's like a book dealer over there in I don't know, Whitby or something, just like not far from outside of Toronto that I need to go to. So I'm gonna make an excuse to go over there and make you come to Toronto.
I would definitely do that. I mean, Toronto is like my most hated city in the world, but I would come to meet you.
Really? What do you dislike about Toronto?
Oh, everything. It's just like not a nice city. I mean, I won't say too much in case there are Torontonians listening, but it's just like it's not a nice place, and you know, there's not much to do there, and I try to avoid it. There's speeding cameras everywhere on every street, like just a lot of poverty, which like obviously people can't help it because everything is so insanely expensive. But that really does have an effect on the general atmosphere of the place, and big like wealth disparities and things like that, which is not very pleasant.
Big city problems.
Yeah. And like the traffic is bad, and there's not very much like social cohesion. It's kind of everybody's got a like F you, I got mine sort of attitude. I don't know. Having gone to other cities in the world, like, you know, like Istanbul and places like that, just absolutely mind-boggling cities, beautiful, clean, like well-maintained, lots to do, and they just don't compare. And so that's kind of my beef with Toronto.
It's so funny coming from America, where like my coming from Detroit rather, like all the things you say about Toronto, I'm like, I think Toronto's like a city on a hill. And like it's like coming from Detroit. But it's funny that you guys have that opinion. Dan, what are you doing for Halloween?
Handing out candy this time.
Nice.
Yeah. So I'll just be sitting out and giving candy and maybe having a few drinks, and that's about it. I don't have any big plans.
You gonna watch a movie or not?
Yeah, I watched some of the horror movies earlier this week. Some of those Conjuring movies. See what that was about. They were all right. They weren't terrible. They were like, I don't know, poor man's Exorcist in my opinion.
What isn't poor man's Exorcist? Even the new Exorcist is poor man's Exorcist.
Yeah, I mean, because it's like the same theme, right? Like possession and exorcising a demon and bringing in a priest and all that kind of stuff. But it just doesn't have the same atmosphere. So I don't know. They don't really scare me in the same way. Like I'm kind of like, oh, that's cool. Like that's neat, but it doesn't really doesn't make me not want to walk around the house with the lights off, kind of thing.
Right. No, I saw the third Exorcist movie last week for the first time.
Oh, it's good.
It's really good.
It's really good. Yeah, it's a sleeper. It's a great. Yeah. No, I agree with you. Also, the soundtrack for it is really good too.
Yeah.
I think I have the
creepy.
It's really good. I think it has one of the best jump scares, the effective jump scares in
Yes.
film
I was
history.
talking to my wife about that yesterday.
I think it's the best jump scare. I hate jump scares, but I will say that one's well done. Zevi, have you ever been trick or treating before?
I think tonight might be my first. Our local rabbi here told me that I need to make a shechianu, which is the blessing that you make in Judaism for doing something the first time.
So how much candy? Again, it's like where we get very like our machmir about our Halloween practice. Like how much candy do you have to get in order to have you to be Yotze Halloween?
This is such a Justin question.
We did this last year. It was like, how do you get the mitzvah of Halloween?
Right.
How much?
Well, now Zevi's here, and we have to.
Some do say you have to have a full cheekful. Others say it's only the size of an olive. But there's a debate about what the real size of an olive is, because the olive in those days and the olive in these days are not the same.
Oh God.
This is the kind of thing I'm going to inflict on my children. It's going to be great.
Yeah, so you think we're joking. If it was a Jewish holiday, this would literally be the discourse. It's not even a joke.
Oh, no. All the categories Zevi's using are actually real legal categories.
And it's just the tip of the iceberg. It would be pages and pages of that.
Yeah, one log of candy or whatever.
If you began before sunset, do you have to continue till after sunset? Do you have to make a new blessing if it's between two different?
I have a confession. I've never trick or treating.
You've never been trick or treating?
Really?
No, because I'm Italian. So
but you're living in the UK. You've been living there for a while.
yeah, that's true. I've never done it here because I thought I was a grown up, but maybe I should have.
People don't really take kindly to adults trick or treating. They're like,
No,
"Are you a little old for Halloween?"
But
when
in
you're
the
15
I don't
years
know
old.
I don't know how it works in the US, but here in the UK they have, because here everybody is super polite, so nobody wants to do things that might upset others. So there's sort of this code where if you have Halloween decorations, then they will knock at your door. Otherwise, they won't. I don't know if it is the same in America.
Either the porch light has to be on, or some kind of light has to be on.
Yeah, and in Italy now kids are starting to do the trick or treat, but it's getting pushed back from the Catholic Church, of course. But yeah, kids are starting to do that, but it's still seen as something a bit controversial because you're gonna go to hell or whatever if you do that.
I mean, you can also just hire children to go with you. Like that's basically what I'm doing tonight. I have 2 minions that I will send house to house in order to get me candy, and I will pay them in some part of the candy. They'll get compensation, royalties based on how much candy they collect. They're contractors.
What are their costumes?
They're both elected. So my oldest wanted to be a fly for a while because they spent a while deathly afraid of flies, but then they both shifted over to being dinosaurs.
Cool.
And I'm pretty sure you, Dan, you have the same weather we do. It's like gotten really cold. It's like we're supposed to have snow tonight.
Getting groceries in my shorts, and it was like it's 1 degree outside, I think, or whatever that is in your weird units.
It's 3.973 metric Barnogs. Have you ever seen that great picture of the imperial system? Like where you have all the different imperial things related to one another. It looks like something from Kabbalah. Let me show you this. This is hilarious. You guys will appreciate this.
But I was thinking that in Italy we have something called Carnevale, which is where you dress up basically. So it's similar to Halloween, except for the trick or treat, but that happens in February.
To replace
So-
Lupercalia or something.
Yes, to replace Lupercalia, exactly. That's the, and so that's when we would dress up and go to parties, and it's very similar to Halloween, but it doesn't have that element of being scared. It's more about dressing up and having fun. So I remember that as a child, the time of the year where I would dress up and go around the streets dressed up, usually as a witch. It would surprise everybody, but whereas my sister used to dress up as a fairy. She liked dressing up as a fairy, but that would be during Carnevale.
Yeah. Halloween's
Not-
pretty popular over here. Kids are out trick or treating. I did that when I was a kid, but now we live in an apartment building, and like the outer like gate or door is always locked. So if there are any trick or treaters, it's only kids that live in the building, and we've only had, I think, one group of kids this year so far.
Mm. I remember that when I was a child and I was watching like American movies and I would see Halloween, it's like, oh, this is so weird that Americans have Carnevale on October. So I would make the association, but Halloween became widespread later on in recent years.
Yeah, I think anything that's gonna have free candy involved is gonna be a pretty easy sell. Anyway, I put the link to the Imperial thing, so you
what
can
was
see
this
how
again? Justin, remind me.
this is how all of the imperial measurements relate to one another. It's like
Oh,
it looks
wow.
like Kabbalah.
Yeah, it's the Sphero.
It's like the gallon Keter, the Hochmann Bina are quarts and pints. Tiferet is a cup.
You Americans just
Tiferet would be a good for a cup. Yeah,
I like that the gallon is split into upper and lower keter. That's quite accurate as well.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
The coordinated and uncoordinated unity of the gallon.
Someone's been reading some Iamblichus and Plotinus. God. Dan, do you like reading that stuff? Does I get like, for the same reason I like reading like epic lists, like in the Iliad and stuff, of like boats or like sacrifices in Leviticus. I also like reading like lists of Henads and stuff like that in Proclus. Is anyone else like that?
I mean, I've read the Book of Causes, and like right now I'm working on the Book of 24. Like I'm finally wrapping up that Hermetica project, Latin Hermetica, and we're on our final revision of the Book of 24 Philosophers.
Nice.
And it has like a commentary attached to it, and it is very much Proclean, but it's not like quite like the lists of Henads, as you say, but it is equally obtuse and difficult to understand. So I don't know. I feel like you have to do your due diligence and read some of that stuff. But I certainly don't take much joy out of it. I much prefer like Plotinus because it's more prosaic than technical.
Yeah. I think maybe I'm alone in this. I don't know. I there's part of me that wants to write like fan fiction. There's just like lots of eons and Henads, and just make it as make it as Baroque as possible. Make it all. No, I love that stuff. Like Pistis Sophia with all the eons and all that.
Just lists of generations, and this one begat this one, and this one begat that one.
If I love the Silmarillion, it's like I can't read the Lord of the Rings because it's just them walking around in a field, but I can read the Silmarillion.
Your cat is so cute.
This is Merlin. He was born in this house, and he's a spoiled brat. Because he's never known any hardship like my other cats, which are adopted. When he's just was.
How many cats do you have?
Just 3.
Okay,
just 3.
I mean, I grew up on a farm, and we had like 10 cats at a time.
No, right. Well, that makes sense. Yeah. We just have the one dog, who I imagine Zevi is down there with you somewhere.
She's sitting right here by the fire. Indeed.
Yeah, that is her spot during the winter. She sleeps upstairs by the radiator, then sleeps downstairs by the fire, and that is the extent of her getting around. Yeah, it is a good life. Oh, David, and also I want to say thank you for everyone who's leaving super thanks in the chat. I really do appreciate that. There was someone, David Can asks, favorite Halloween song?
I think one that I tend to listen to a lot on Halloween is Sweet Dreams by Marilyn Manson. I don't know why, but the kind of song that I gravitate towards during Halloween.
Oh, there's Sips.
Yeah, Mississippi says hi.
Oh.
Yeah, that's my dog.
We're learning more about you, Justin, thanks to David in your
Oh,
house.
you guys weren't here that time when my littlest like banged in the door during a live stream and was like,
No, I don't know about that.
it was there was a live stream where my youngest Zohar just like barreled through the door. I was like, what are you doing, Abba? Like talking to internet people? Like, who's internet people? It was pretty cute. They stole the show for sure. Other favorite Halloween songs?
All the music I listen to is Halloween music. So what can I say?
Well, that would be true for me too.
Just listen to Skinny Puppy all the time.
It's just, yeah.
Swans and Skinny Puppy.
So I have this thing called black metal winter, which is like when it starts getting cold, that's when like the black metal starts to come out. And then like, you know, when it's warmer, I'm more into like thrash and things that are slightly more uplifting. But we are veering into black metal winter, so like the Immortal and the Emperor and all that stuff is coming out.
Transylvania Hunger.
Yeah, exactly. And
I listen to black metal in the summer, Dan, because I don't have air conditioning here.
Do you want to cool things down?
Are we all metal fans? Metalheads?
I don't think Zebby's.
No.
I don't think Zebby knows much from metal. He may be here through the walls when I'm like getting dressed in the morning when I'm like playing Panopticon or something.
I hear a lot of classical music here at Justin's, but you have to play me some metal. See if I'll like it.
All right. You won't.
I hear it's an acquired taste.
Sure.
Yeah, Zebby. I mean, Philip. Do you listen to much metal? I think you have to. It's like a legal obligation as a student of Scandinavia.
Yeah, I used to a lot.
Yeah.
I was never that into black metal, but I listened to a lot of thrash back in the day, and like that's how I started playing the guitar. Basically, was trying to learn metal songs.
That's a good way to learn the guitar.
Yeah,
I'm a metal singer, even though I'm not singing that much ever since academia took over my life. But I plan on getting back to that.
Yeah.
you should.
I have to say, I haven't been listening to that. With the exception of Black Braid, I haven't been listening to that much black metal recently. I've been listening to a lot of like Super Nintendo soundtracks, like Final Fantasy 3. Yeah, like I like some Darth synth a little bit, but
It's good stuff.
but yeah, also John Carpenter. I've been listening to. Speaking of John Carpenter from earlier, I've been listening to a lot of his lost themes.
Yes.
It's like really great. It's such a cool concept too. I just love it as a concept, and I love it as like a father-son gig, and I also just like the music is great.
Yeah, I love Carpenter.
Yeah.
His music is just it's amazing.
What's your favorite John Carpenter movie?
Oh man, and it can't be Halloween.
Halloween's too cliche of an answer.
Yeah, it's
I do like
The Thing
Fog.
is pretty high up there.
Thing is up there. I like The Fog. I just like I also like the soundtrack of The Fog.
Yes, the endings it drops.
Yeah,
a bit,
the ending's not great. Yeah,
but I think that maybe The Thing's great.
Prince of Darkness also big fan of.
Yeah.
And
you would think because of my like Marxy background, it would be like They Live, but I'm not so much on that one.
I love They Live. I don't
Yeah.
consider it a Halloween movie though. It's just
No,
like
it's
an
definitely
all
not.
year round, all the time movie.
Yeah. But Halloween songs, any of those sort of Halloween songs that isn't the theme for Halloween, that's not gonna also has to be.
That was gonna be my answer. I don't know. I don't know any Halloween songs. I think.
There's a bunch of them. We used to sing them as kids in elementary school. Like, have you guys ever read the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark? With like
No, but I saw the movie.
the books, like they have like the little old lady who lives by the little lady who lives by the church or whatever. There's like a lot of those like spooky songs like that. Like I said, I think so much black metal music is just sort of Halloweeny anyway.
Yeah,
that's
So.
true. I think I will have to leave shortly, unfortunately. But
Yeah, I have to get going too. Speaking of trick or treating, I have to go obtain my children from their indoctrination environment, and get them ready. Get them 3 layers of clothes on so they can go trick or treating for half an hour.
Half an hour.
that's not much.
It's pretty
How are you
cold.
gonna get candy in that time?
Yeah, you just have to run them pretty hard. Cattle prod, run. I mean, also the houses here are really close together, so it's really easy to like dart around. But it's going to be supposed to snow tonight here. Like it's really going to be chilly, so I really don't think that. I can only subject them to so much frostbite until the government takes them away from me.
Do people still give out those nasty toffees that come in orange wrappers?
Of course, like you got to get crappy candy.
What about
you're gonna
candy
get? You're
corn?
gonna. It's the candy corn and the toffee things. But you like it's okay to get those because you're gonna get some percent of like Reese's peanut butter cups and Snickers, little mini Snickers.
They're all terrible now. Like chocolate has gone so far downhill.
Because
it's
the
nasty,
oil or whatever, palm oil
crap made of dead orangutans, and it's just the worst.
Yeah, it's the chocolate is not as good as it used to be. But then also, like if I went house to house and I gave a bunch of kids like really good dark chocolate, I'd go pour and they wouldn't eat it.
Yeah, very true.
They'd be like, "This tastes like ashes. I don't want to eat. This is terrible."
Do you have a strategy, Justin, of how to hit the most homes in the least amount of time?
I don't know. Tell the
you got to find the rich neighborhoods, obviously.
Yeah, you can do a car, like trick or treat from a car, but I'm too machmir for that. I'm like too strict that you have to do some walking. So what we do is there's a block in a town just north of here, that the houses are really close together and the people are really about it, and so you can sort of pretty rapid fire collect some candy, but hey, look, as long as I get like a handful of Reese's peanut butter cups or Snickers or whatever, I'll be fine. And if I don't, I'll send them back out. Snow be damned. They will obtain the candy.
And then the Christmas trees will come out for me.
It's true. Yeah, you guys have
right away. Just right away. Halloween decorations come up. Christmas
How
lights.
quickly do you have to put up the Christmas tree after Halloween? Although I don't know how you guys feel about this, but I'm also like a spooky season extender. To me, spooky season extends all the way till Christmas morning.
Which is spooky as well, right? Like if you're a good Victorian traditionalist, then Christmas is all about spirits and spooky stuff too.
Yeah, Christmas Eve to me is like is absolutely like the Christmas Eve is spooky, is the end of the culmination of spooky season for me.
Not for me.
No, you're done with after today?
Yeah, I'm always like that. I don't know why. It's like after today, probably. I will want nothing to do with Halloween for a couple of months.
You do it a month-long festival, don't you? Like you do the spooky season as opposed to that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm slow burn spooky wise.
For me, it's all year round. So this is just the peak where everybody else, attunes with my.
Everyone joins Angela.
With my
wherever Angela is
vibe.
standing, there's like an eclipse directly overhead.
It reminds me of the Jewish question of when does the judgment really end? Does it go all the way to Yom Kippur? Does it go all the way to
Hoshana Rabbah?
Right, exactly. And each one has to extend it further and further.
Yeah, it's like back to the holidays again.
Basically.
Well, I hope that y'all have a good rest of Halloween, Samhain. Hope that folks watching also have an amazing Halloween and Samhain,
Yes.
especially for my folks out there for whom this is a spiritually important holiday. I really do hope that it is meaningful for everybody. That's really, I think it's like we can have fun with it, and also I really want to see the folks for whom this is like an important spiritual holiday and acknowledge and name that as really important, and hope that's also, as much as it's spooky fun for the rest of it, it's also that it's an important spiritual holiday. So I hope that it is deeply meaningful for those folks as well. And I hope that everyone gets good candy and gives out good candy. Dan Trail, if I find out you give out bad candy,
It's all bad candy, but I give out gummies for what it's worth. You know, assorted gummies like Sour Patch and Fuzzy
Sour Patch are
Peaches
good.
and gummy worms and all that stuff. But they come in these little packets, and there's like 3 in a packet. And I'm like, this is the biggest waste of plastic I've ever seen. Like shrinkflation has really done a number on Halloween.
Yeah, and palm oil. Ugh. Well, again, yeah, I hope everyone has a happy Halloween. And I'm going to drop this episode in just a minute. I see Marco Visconti in the chat. Hi, Marco. I'm going to drop this, our commentary on Hereditary. Speaking of scary movies, me and Marco Visconti and Aaron Leach did a running commentary on Ari Aster's Hereditary. So, so I'm going to drop that. And for folks, if folks want a scary movie to watch, Hereditary is a pretty good occulty one. So I'm going to drop that, and then I'm taking a little break. I'm going to be taking a couple weeks off from content creation. So I don't know about you, Philip, but after the sprint that is Halloween, I'm ready for a couple
I'm
days off.
probably going to take some time off too, at least from YouTube, because tomorrow I'm going into the studio to record some music for the rest of the week. So
nice, good for you.
The work continues, but other work.
Wonderful. Well, good luck with that. I hope that comes out. I'm looking forward to hearing it. Always like your music, Zebby. Zebby, we're gonna go trick or treating.
We're gonna have fun. we're gonna get so much candy.
It's gonna be great.
We'll be drowning in candy all the way till Christmas.
All right, everybody. Well,
Thank
again,
you
I'm going to do a
guys
live
for
stream.
hanging out.
Of course,
We should do this more often.
Yeah, we absolutely should. Glad you were able to jump on, Dan.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Of
It's
course.
good I came back just in time from groceries.
Yes.
And then I was naked, and then I needed to put clothes on. So
it's surprising that you guys were
do you buy groceries naked?
No, I
Is that a
go for
Canadian
walk
thing?
and then carry like 50 pounds or 60 pounds of groceries, and they get really sweaty and disgusting.
Oh, okay.
You can get changed. So Canada's not that free.
Not really free.
Yeah, that would be more Italy now that I think about it.
Yeah. Happy Halloween, everybody.
Yeah. Happy
See you guys
Samhain,
later.
everybody.
Yep. All right, everyone. See you soon. Bye.